Welcome back. So, in between the first and second period between the Kings and the Avalanche, here I am with some more news from the hockey world for today, including Philippe Myers is going to have an MRI after an injury suffered against the Sabres tonight. We'll know after that MRI how long he's going to be out. Hopefully, it's not for very long. He's been a key member of that Philadelphia Blue Line, getting more than 20 minutes a night. He's had a solid start to the season. Let's hope he's not out for very long. There was a trade few hours back between Minnesota and Colorado. Colorado retaining some of Cole's salary. I think it's 18%. Ian Cole goes to Minnesota. Greg Pateryn goes to Colorado. And so it's a trade between two teams that are normally not that likely to trade with one another. But I guess they're not worried about depth defensemen coming back to bite them later. They're both in the West. And Bill Guerin knows Ian Cole from Pittsburgh. So this is a situation where Guerin's picking up a player he's familiar with, and for Colorado, it's a move that may free up some money for them to make another move down the road. So we'll see how things go with the Colorado Blue Line. They've had a decent start against LA tonight. I'm not giving any spoilers. It's been a decent start to the game tonight. Not too shabby, as it's the only game that's still on. And we'll get to why that's the only game that's still on, and there wasn't another one that was still going. Will Butcher has been a healthy scratch now in back-to-back games for New Jersey. Now, based on how New Jersey's playing right now, it may be harder for him to get in the lineup. When a team's playing well, they're not as likely to make changes to their lineup as they would be if things are going poorly. So, for Butcher, if he's a healthy scratch too often, does he end up on the block? Does he get picked up? What happens with Butcher? We'll see. As we saw between Minnesota and Colorado, defensemen can always get traded. Carter Hutton, same game as Myers here. Carter Hutton I'm pretty sure this was a concussion. I don't know if they revealed it to be a concussion or what it was, but Hutton gets hit near the start of the second period, and he didn't come out to start the third. So he finished up the second period, but he was crashed into by Provorov, who's thrown into him by Montour. So while Montour goes after Provorov after colliding with his goalie, Montour really probably should have been hitting himself because he threw Provorov into his goaltender, and it was kind of an ugly thing where Hutton's head hits the bar behind him. So hopefully the post. Hopefully Hutton's okay, but hopefully it was just an abundance of caution. But it does make you wonder. And keep in mind for Buffalo, they've already been without Ullmark, who's been away from the team for personal reasons, and so there may be more urgency for Ullmark. And this is my Ullmark jersey. There may be more urgency for Ullmark to come back, and I'm well aware this is the Buffalo colors from last year. I'm aware. So yeah, hopefully Hutton's okay. So Carolina came out that there were positive tests, and 4 players have been added to the COVID protocol list. Foegele, you can replace. Teravainen, you can't. Slavin, you can't. Martinook, maybe, but if you're losing Martinook and Foegele, and you're already down Jordan Staal, right? So for Carolina, this is an issue, and apparently they're on the road. And for the players who've tested positive, they're supposed to stay in the hotel for 10 days isolated. So that's where we're at now. Those positive tests too, they were administered before last night's game, so they already had tested positive. But because there's a 24-hour turnaround in the test results, yeah, it's a little different than the bubble hockey we had when they came back in August, isn't it? So we'll see what the end result of this is. Nashville's going to play now against Dallas on Friday. After tonight's game's been postponed, we still don't know the date for when that game's going to get made up. We don't know exactly what's going to happen other than the players who've tested positive get pushed aside. Carolina's going to have to activate players from their taxi squad now and cross their fingers that it stops there. Because as we've seen in other sports, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns as an example. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens with Carolina from here and how long these guys are out. A 10-day isolation period, that's rough. That's really rough when everybody else is playing hockey. NHL announced this. I thought it was kind of funny. So I'm flipping around between the channels in Detroit on Fox Sports Detroit had this whole big deal about the new Fox. Basically, Fox tracking puck is what it is. Essentially, it's an updated version of the glowing puck. But the NHL pulled them. the NHL today decided to get rid of the pucks. Now, they're saying that there's some inaccurate readings from those pucks, and apparently players have said these pucks, they catch and they don't glide as well, and they were having problems with these pucks. Now, of course, those problems are going to affect each team equally, so it's not like a team's getting an advantage from that, but I would think that the combination of those two things, the NHL is going to push it aside. Now, apparently they're waiting for the next shipment to come in. There's been some kind of changes to it, and then they're going to do some advanced testing. I thought they had already done testing. I thought we've been testing this for about a year. Weren't we supposed to get these pucks last year? I'm pretty sure we were. So there's already been a ton of testing, but then in game situations, I just don't know that you can make it a situation where the players are going to go, oh, these pucks are much better. And again, I don't know if they're better or if they're worse. I haven't used them myself. If you've been fortunate enough to try one of these out, by all means, let me know in the comment section below. Did they stick? Are they more problematic to hold? Are they more inconsistent in their weight or in the way that they respond to the ice, or any other number of things that can cause a puck to go awry? And then also the Vancouver Canucks, who have their farm team in Utica, and this has been something we've been wondering is, okay, so for the Canadian teams that have their farm teams in the U.S., when those players come to Canada, they have to go through the 14-day quarantine before they can join the team. And that was waived for training camp, but training camp's over, that's no longer waived. They can't just bring them up from the AHL and put them on the ice. So the Canucks, realizing they have a problem, they went through the Winnipeg Jets first and negotiated with the Manitoba Moose, and they have an agreement with the Moose that I'm sure the NHL is okay with, where they have 3 players who will be placed with the Manitoba Moose who they can bring up, and when they bring them up, they then have to go through the NHL's mandatory 7-day quarantine rather than 14. So it's a week sooner these guys can join the team than otherwise. And so they've put Tyler Graovac, Ashton Sautner, and Arthur Silovs have been brought to, or are in the process of going to Manitoba to join the Moose, and are there just in case the Canucks need them. So, yeah, and for any other Canadian team that doesn't have a Canadian situation for their AHL call-ups, we'll see how that goes. Again, this season's going to be interesting. I'm well aware that what we've seen with Carolina, it's going to happen elsewhere. It's happened in every sport, and it's just a matter of figuring out the best way to deal with it. So we'll see how long Carolina's out for, and when they come back, what their roster looks like. Because losing Teravainen is huge. That is a gigantic loss, and he's one of the more underrated players in the league. And if Carolina has to play 2 weeks without him, it's going to hurt. So we'll see where we're at. But remember, about an hour and a half from now, I'll be doing the review of tonight's games. And always keep in mind, when I'm doing the review of a lot of games, it takes longer for the video to upload, for the video to process, and then go live. So last night, for instance, it took about 10 minutes from when I started uploading it for it to actually go live. So there's that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you've not already done so. And hey, I will talk to you again soon.